From Holy Trinity Church in Inwood, New York City, welcome to Inwood Artworks On Air. It's where we meet the musicians, filmmakers, writers, theater makers, and artists of all stripes that make their home what we affectionately call Upstate Manhattan. I'm your host, Aaron Sims, and today we welcome Natalie Espino and Ryan Pinchot from the Hispanic Society Museum and Library. Located on Audubon Terrace Broadway between 155th and 156th Streets, the Hispanic Society Museum and Library was founded by Archer Milton Huntington in 1904 as a free public museum and library for the study of the art and culture of Spain, Portugal, Latin America, and the Philippines. It houses a vast collection of paintings, watercolors, drawings, prints, and photographs, as well as sculpture and decorative objects dating from the first millennium BCE to the 20th century. The library offers an unparalleled collection of over 300,000 books and periodicals dating from the 11th century to the present. As the Hispanic Society Museum and Library continues comprehensive renovations of its building, it has maintained and expanded its public and education programs, both in virtual and in-person platforms, including its popular concert series, public lectures, and launching of a temporary exhibition space. They have reactivated the outdoor space with exhibitions of public programs on Audubon Terrace in partnership with several local artist community organizations. We are thrilled to have them both here today to talk about the work happening at the Hispanic Society and also going within the walls and outside of the walls. So, welcome you both to Inwood Artworks On Air. Thank you for being here today.
Thank you, Aaron.
You betcha. So, can you introduce yourselves and perhaps what your roles are at the Hispanic Society?
I'm Natalie Espino, and I am head of education, public programs, and community partnerships at the Hispanic Society Museum and Library. I've been there for a little over a year and a half.
And I'm Ryan Pinchot, and I also work in the education department with Natalie, and that's education, community engagement, academic programs. I've been there for 4 years, and I'm also a PhD candidate at Rutgers.
Wow. So you both wear a lot of hats at a very large institution. So people are listening to this podcast are either thinking, everybody knows Hispanic Society Museum and Library, or they're saying, there's a Hispanic Society Museum and Library?
Exactly.
Okay, so let's just cut to the chase so we can serve both of these masters. And just let's just talk about, cut to the chase of why, and bring that to everybody. So I said in the bio like why it was established, but like why is the Hispanic Society Museum and Library vital to our community and deserves their support and or engagement?
Well, it's an extraordinary collection that, just like you say, there are people who are either completely fanatics of the collection and the space, or there are people who just assume it's closed down or it's not part of, or it's something totally different than what it is, or that it's a closed type of academic club. A lot of that perception. But once you become part of that camp that actually sees the space, it really is one of those experiences that transports you, and you become completely floored that here in northern Manhattan, at that kind of notional space between Harlem and the Heights, is this just such an unusual collection. It just happened to be that somebody who was enamored of this language and this culture in the Hispanic sense of Hispanic studies built this beautiful complex in this space, not only for his own institution, but for several academic institutions at the time. The one that is left there is, of course, the American Academy of Arts and Letters. But the idea was that northern Manhattan was going to become this bit of a destination for maybe some of the appreciators of art and culture who lived in posh areas downtown. It didn't quite turn out that way, as we know. Historically, Washington Heights became the home of these low-rises that welcomed immigrants from various parts of the planet during different parts of the 20th century. So there's a little bit of that oddly placed surroundings, but I don't think it has to be, because, it's just, I think anybody who loves art, anybody who loves history, anybody who loves literature would find programs and works of art there that would speak to them.
Yeah, I think you were asking both, why it's important and also why it's lesser known in some circles. It's kind of cliche. Some people use the phrase hidden gem, right? So it's a gem if you are aware of it, if you are a scholar in Hispanic studies, if you are an art aficionado, we're very well known in Spain, right? The museum was founded as a kind of cultural embassy for Spanish and Latin American art in the United States. And it's important not only because of the amazing collection and as a resource to scholars, but because, as Natalie was saying, on that kind of border between Washington Heights and Harlem, and when the museum was founded, what was a 0% Hispanic community is now one of the most prominent Hispanic Latino communities in the nation. So we really have this kind of there's this expectation and this potential, right, of making this amazing collection and scholarly resource into a really kind of full resource for that community,
Yeah.
uptown and in the region generally.
Yeah, the sort of accident of history that put the institution in what would become, Hispanic diaspora, just really invites us and gives us that opportunity to embrace Hispanic in all those definitions, embrace, question, problematize, engage people in that conversation. So it adds another layer to what the relevance and what could be fruitful conversations beyond the just universal appreciation for these works of art.
Which leads me to a question I want to pose to each of you as well, and I thank you for your wonderful answer of that. Because if you guys listening didn't know about it, those are all great reasons to, hit your Google browser now and go surfing, and also obviously show up and check out the campus itself, because you mentioned it's a sprawling campus, and to borrow the phrase from the Field of Dreams, if you build it, they will come. It's like, well, they built it and had no idea that, you said, right, like it is one of the most a full neighborhood of vitality, of a great diaspora of Hispanic backgrounds, obviously in the 5 boroughs, but specifically within walking distance of the museum and library. So that's pretty impressive. So I wanted to ask you both, other than the lucrative salaries you must be earning for the multiple hats you wear on a daily basis for your roles there, you mind sharing personally? Because I think you kind of, when you're working for a museum, a library, and I say this tongue in cheek, of course, because about lucrative salaries, of course, but you have to kind of be an apostle for the cause, and you kind of have to believe in serving that higher power of what it's all about, that mission, if you will, of the institution. So what is it that makes you want to serve and contribute to the mission of this cultural gem, as you said, Ryan?
Well, from my perspective, like I said, I'm a PhD candidate, so I've been in grad school for probably
since you were a child. Yes.
Yeah, well, it seems that way. It's 7 years now.
Wow, that's longer than you worked there. Okay.
It'll probably be a decade, of grad school by the time I'm done.
Gosh.
So I'm a Latin Americanist. I study cinema, music. I study media from Latin America, from Colombia, and we, in critical studies, literature studies, theory, we tend to get in the academy wrapped up in theoretical, abstract questions. So being able to also work at the Hispanic Society, where some of those questions about it's always a buzzword, decolonial theory, right? Decentering the canon. These are conversations that we have in the academy. but being able to put that into practice in a tangible way where you can kind of see that we are mobilizing these artworks, these works of literature um, toward an educational cause, a political cause from a certain perspective, is more rewarding than publishing in academic journals for me.
Yes, for people in Spanish departments, I'm told it's a bit of the mothership.
I would think you're quite a resource for you. Absolutely. Wow.
I will say that in my case, my childhood was split between Washington Heights and Miami, with Inwood always being an important part of our upbringing, because our family was spread around uptown. I definitely knew the space as the place where the statue of El Cid was. So when we'd be visiting folks in the lower heights, they were there. But curiously, I never knew there was a museum there. And it wasn't until I was an undergrad in 1950 that I was taking a seminar dedicated totally to the artist Diego Velázquez. And I'm flipping through things that you flip through to study. And, and this painting is at the Hispanic Society in Washington Heights. I'm like, oh, there's another place called Washington Heights. Because I couldn't be talking about my neighborhood. I would have been aware of it. And so from that point on, I started kind of pulling at that a little bit, exploring it, became a member, became very much enamored of it. But it's certainly, telling a little bit of that hidden experience, with even being someone from uptown, not being familiar with it your entire life.
Yeah.
So I definitely feel very motivated to share that. It's an answer that we hear a lot from folks like me who grew up here. Oh, I didn't know it was there. I'd never heard of this. And so if there's anything that I can do to make sure that people discover this earlier. I'm a bit of a displaced academic, but I was also in a Hispanist, so to speak, in the late antiquity, early Middle Ages part of the Iberian Peninsula. But at the same time, a lot of my academic work had to do with, early forms of museums and collecting. So it's a line of work that was always kind of calling to me and part of my career early on. And to be able to come back to it in my own neighborhood, in a place where I think that I had that very specific way of saying, I know the community, I know who a lot of the stakeholders are, and we can maybe, move some really fascinating partnerships here, so that we as an institution can learn about how to engage this public the way that the small arts organizations have here, as you know.
Well, engagement is key.
And if I may, I think we've talked a lot about the museum as a resource, and I kind of have my stats here. I think it would be helpful.
We love numbers.
If you haven't been,
Hit us.
If you haven't been to the Hispanic Society,
Give us academic. Give us numbers.
Just for context.
Yes, please.
We were founded as a kind of representative, comprehensive collection covering the Spanish-speaking world, right?
Yeah.
Spain, Latin America, but also Portugal, Brazil, the Philippines, former colonial territories. We hold more than 30,000 museum objects, paintings, drawings, prints, sculptures, ceramics, ironworks, textiles, jewelry, 175,000 photographs of Spain and Latin America, and a rare books library, as well as a modern library with more than 250,000 books and newspapers, including 15,000 volumes printed before 1701. We have masterwork paintings, El Greco, Goya, Murillo, Velázquez, as well as early copies of some of the greatest works of Spanish literature, El Quijote, La Celestina, etc. So I just, I think that I just want to, because we keep referring to it as this kind of, treasure, right? And I think hopefully.
And every day we discover new things. And so, there are other media like music collection,
Yeah,
but
right.
I just became aware of it. There's this very robust collection by the Cuban composer Ernesto Bona. So I'm just thinking, I didn't know we had this. And every day, you find out something else is in this collection that needs a little bit more love, needs a little bit more visibility, and could really have, be a great visitor learner experience.
Well, I love to pick the librarian's brain and also get deep into the nitty gritty of. So I come from a theater background, and obviously Inwood Artworks caters to our whole community up here in Inwood, Washington Heights, which is partly Hispanic as well. And so I'm always looking for ideas and programming to say, like, for instance, we've talked about doing a play or a musical, and there's only so many in the public diaspora. Like, you have your Man La Mancha of the world, that you have, like, it's not as much in Spanish, but you have, there's diaspora, there's, of course, you have Lope de Vega, and you have your Maria Fornes plays and things like that. But there's not a working knowledge of the stuff that's been done in Latin America and Portugal and other places that could possibly speak to the audiences today and what's going on. It'd be great. Lorca is, it's like the only playwright anybody knows from Spain, it seems. So it's like there's so much more to dive into, and so I'm using it as one of my personal interests to encourage others to challenge themselves and dive into, like I said, all those beautiful numbers you're talking about. And if you wouldn't mind, could you share, pick one? It has to be your favorite, but we could say a favorite of the collection of any whatever, painting, manuscript, whatever. Is there anything currently, or do you have an all-time favorite of the collection you want to share with people? They say, well, my point is like saying, let me rephrase it. You can't miss this if you come. Like, what would you say?
And we've asked this question internally. We had a year ago.
Your marketing department probably hits you with it.
We had an exhibition called Nuestra Casa, and it was for the first time a lot of kind of the highlights of the collection that had been during our renovations on this very successful, very well received world tour of Treasures of the Hispanic Society in different forms in different museums who are borrowing and hosting these exhibitions. The guest curator, Madeline Haddam, who was doing Nuestra Casa, asked everybody to think, if the building were on fire, what would you grab? And it gave me a panic attack, just the hypothetical. How could you ask me that? But it's, it is a difficult one. Yeah. Because every, works of art have different meanings for different people for different reasons, and so that's part of the magic of going and experiencing this. There could be a work of art that is just very emblematic of a particular time in your life or an experience you had. I think it would be something in my case from the archaeological collection, probably one of those great those sets of vessels or ivory combs that are coming from that pre-Roman period, and maybe if some of the late antique mosaics I could chisel out of the wall fast enough, I think I'd have to grab them.
Depends how big your purse is at the time, apparently.
Yeah, that's it. But yeah, these are...
Great answer.
Yeah, this is it. Just to remember that was a good thought exercise, but yes, I think that when I think about going in, I think that corner where we have those mosaics is a bit of a happy place for me.
Gotcha.
I enjoy our collection of maps quite a bit. It's something that we work with in the education department a good amount. And they're really fascinating for me as a Latin Americanist, but also as someone who studies cinema, that kind of visualization of space. And, our maps, several of them, Mesoamerican maps, Amazonian maps, these are from a very early period in the colonial process, 1500s, right? So you have knowledge systems between Europe and indigenous societies kind of clashing in the same document, where each of the participant parties express represent space in their own ways, corresponding to their own ways of knowing those spaces. So there's so many stories that come out of those maps, and they are a lesser known aspect of the collection.
Well, I'm glad you can answer those questions without trying to set anything on fire and saving anything. I appreciate that from you guys. I'm saying, just go to the museum. Don't ask what's on fire. Just say, where are the maps and where are the early Roman artifacts, so we could try to possibly, or pre-Roman, I should say, if we can't even find them. The Mesopotamians, maybe, I don't know. Or we can find the best favorites. Maybe like a bookshop, staff picks. You know what I mean? Kind of thing like that.
That's
Yeah. Or just on your Instagram feed for the society, maybe, the museum, actually.
All ideas.
Yeah. Anyway, but my point is, like, thank you for sharing. I always feel like a personal touch is endorsement for people checking things out. Let's zoom out a little bit, capture more common interests. Is there a certain region of the Hispanic diaspora currently being explored or concentrated on exhibition right now?
So right now we are kind of in between exhibitions. We launch.
Or forthcoming?
Yeah, they're upcoming. They are on September 15th. We launch fall exhibitions that are one of them, a long anticipated exhibition curated by one of our team, Orlando Hernandez Ying, and Dr. Nidia Leiva Gutierrez, who many of our locals know as the executive director of the Northern Manhattan Arts Alliance. They are co-curators for Anatomy of a Fresco, and these are preparatory drawings by Jose Clemente Orozco and the Mexican muralist. And so we are, I think, going to be doing a lot of programming that is heavily centered on Mexico. This is a delayed date, but as it would happen, it makes the exhibition open on the weekend of Mexican independence. So it's kind of fortuitous, and our programming will, we'll be able to really celebrate that, both the exhibition and the celebrations of our Mexican friends and neighbors.
And it's going right into Hispanic Heritage Month.
Exactly.
That too, huh?
That too. Our other exhibition would be covering, again, selections from the entire collection, chronologically and geographically. So it would include a lot of our famous paintings that haven't been on view for a while, as well as decorative objects from all over the Spanish and Portuguese-speaking world.
Excellent. Well, I'm looking forward to checking it out myself, and listeners, I hope you do too.
Sign up for Ryan's tours.
Well, I'm going to say, that's my next question is saying, can you tell us a little about the public and educational programs you're putting into motion? So Ryan, anything with the collection you're bringing out particularly excited about?
Yeah, we're going into Hispanic Heritage Month, which is obviously always a big
It's our
moment.
big season.
Yeah, for programming. At the same time that when we're opening our main gallery, we're going to have a project room space, which will be having another exhibition in November called Picasso and the Spanish Classics. So it's going to be some examples of how Picasso approaches material from classic works of literature. So he's working with El Quijote and working with Góngora, the Golden Age Spanish poet. And then further, in about 6 months from now, I think we're also hoping to have an exhibition of Dominican artists from the Uptown community.
Yes.
Awesome.
Yes, that'll be our spring term. So the part of the vision reopening the museum, and after the first phase of renovations, it includes a commitment to step-free accessibility for our visitors. So the entire collection, as people may remember it, isn't on view at the same time, but instead the plan is to create rotating exhibitions of a lot of the works in our collection, whether it's the highlights, whether it's organized around a particular theme, but at the same time creating these opportunities for contemporary artists to also propose and exhibit. So we do have a collective of Dominican York artists who will be exhibiting next in our spring semester.
Looking forward to that one because I'm sure I know a few of them.
I promise you do.
So those are, that's the exhibition kind of upcoming, which is really going to be our most robust collection, the highest number of works that we've had on display in something close to a decade at the Hispanic Society. So we're going into a really big moment, and I think you were asking to go over some of the more specific things that are coming out of the program.
Yeah, give people whet their appetite.
Yeah, as Natalie was saying, I organized the tours at 2, so I think for now we're sticking to that 2 p.m. Friday and Saturday. You can definitely count on being able to go on a docent-led tour of the gallery spaces. So typically speaking, you would sign up. We have an Eventbrite that you can access through our website, but you can also just show up candidly. You can Friday and Saturday, 2 p.m.
We don't turn anybody away. Yeah.
Awesome.
And then also, Hispanic heritage.
And then so we really do try to take advantage of the beautiful space of our historic district landmarked terrace for programs, both our own and in collaboration with other partner organizations. We have 2 outdoor installations right now, one based on an open call that we did with the Northern Manhattan Arts Alliance, featuring the selection was, the selected artist was Marta Chilindron, and she has her work out there, Orange 48. So it's a very interesting, immersive type of, outdoor sculpture. And she is an Inwood-based artist, originally from Argentinian-born, Uruguayan raised. And the partnership with NOMA is, again, it's a way to create this opportunity for an artist that, who can be in conversation with our mission and collection. But some of the other outdoor programs that then people can attend will be our first ever partnership with Inwood Artworks and Filmworks Al Fresco, showing outdoor films on the Audubon Terrace. You don't need to bring your own chair. We will provide them for you. And it's, again, Spanish, films in Spanish with English subtitles, really sticking to that mission of celebrating the Spanish language and the culture. And those will be 3 Thursdays in September. We would be the first Saturday of the new exhibition, so Saturday the 16th, having a programs kickoff event with one of our favorite partners, Mano a Mano, Mexican Culture Without Borders, and they would be doing a live music and art making workshop.
And they're a great Mexican group too.
Yeah.
So there you go.
They are fantastic.
With the theme of the incoming exhibition.
They are fantastic. We
Yes.
will also have, Mano a Mano will also be doing toward the end of Hispanic Heritage Month, and we've kind of extended that a little bit.
Yeah.
It's, 1 month, it's not quite enough. But Mano a Mano will be doing our Dia de los Muertos, Day of the Dead, programming, again, an altar, art making, music that is appropriate to the season, and having folks learn from a Mexican organization what that tradition is about. That's on October 21st. Awesome. And then October 14th, 15th, and 22nd is our community mural project, again in conjunction with the Orozco exhibition, celebrating Mexican muralists. We are going to have artist Aurelio El Muro is going to be the teaching artist for that. So we would have those 3 workshop afternoons that folks can show up and actually be part of the art-making process. No training or talent required. I promise you, art-making is an incredibly important part of appreciating art. And so we want to make sure that those always go hand in hand. And did you want to talk about the panels?
Yeah, so we will have at least two panels one a scholarly panel discussing Jose Clemente Orozco, and the other a panel of artists from the community who create public art. They're going to be talking about the social, political implications of the art that they make outdoors, outside, in public, here in Uptown. And I think the artist panel is going to be October 19th, probably a Thursday evening.
Great. Well, for those of you who are not keeping track at home with your calendar board, you can go to the website, and it'll be all on there very soon.
Yes.
Which is?
It's hispanicsociety.org.
There you go. So,
And I will say that we are, people, sometimes find it just easier to follow us on Instagram and wait for the updates about programs. And you can actually see our page on the Bloomberg Connects app. And there you can actually listen to audio guides and read content about our collection.
awesome. And there's a lot to collect from the collection.
And I will also, if I can add, I'm not taking
Yeah.
up all of the time here, that weekend of the 20th, 21st, and 22nd, we actually will be participating in Open House New York. So for Open House weekend, and so we would be, we're in the middle of planning what the extended hours and additional tours will be for that weekend.
Awesome. A lot of things happen.
A lot of things happening, and I would just say again, those are our public programs, which are amazing. The most important thing that you really have to know about the Hispanic Society is that the founding mandate is that it is free.
It's for everybody.
It's for everybody.
You don't have to be Hispanic to go.
You don't have to be Hispanic, and admission is free. So, these are not the, I think, you probably caught the piece in the Times a few weeks ago about the quickly rising costs of tickets to enter into museums and cultural offerings in New York City in a way that, a lot of folks who are starting out careers or have a large family, it becomes prohibitive to participate. But we fight really hard to keep that commitment to the community that when we have something that's open to the public, it is free of cost.
Which kind of, what you're discussing, right? An affordable night out kind of brings us back to, just to reemphasize our partnership with Inwood Artworks. The film series, two of them are family-oriented, Coco and Ferdinand. I don't know if you had that.
Both in Spanish.
Both in Spanish with English subtitles.
Exactly. And then also to add, Ferdinand begins off like September 7th.
September 7th.
And then we take a week off for your opening and all that. And then with September 21st, we bring in Women the Verge of Nervous Breakdown. And then we bring in the close out with Coco in Spanish. Yes, they're all in Spanish and English subtitles. And also, people should know, starting at 6 o'clock, free live music and dance on the plaza, on the in the courtyard there, from all around the diaspora, actually. So look forward to, and you can go to Inwood Artworks website too. We'll have those events up, and of course they'll be pushing it out too. And once again, 100% free. And bring a snack. They have a chair for you.
Absolutely.
Come enjoy, and we're happy. Thank you for inviting us to be a part of
we're
the
very
celebration.
excited about it.
And we're looking forward to collaboration and more. We'll keep exploring the Hispanic diaspora in cinema as we go along. Maybe next summer or spring or summer we can do an arts lovers version, and we can try to. You and I can sit down and play a little hopscotch with some Brunel and some some other people in there.
As far as getting into auteur cinema, Mujeres al borde de un ataque de nervios, Almodóvar is a really great start.
It is. Absolutely.
It's a good taste of it.
It'd be the first Almodóvar I would give anybody to watch.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
I agree.
Yeah.
I agree.
Very good.
And it resonates on a lot of levels.
And it's fun.
It's so funny.
And you can see Antonio Banderas in his first role. which is kind of fun too, right?
Very early role, yeah.
We are being clear on the flyers, right? Appropriate for children, not appropriate for children, and then appropriate for children. So
Not recommended.
Not recommended, but guess what? If they're New York City children, the idea is they probably see worse in the subway, but we're not going to go there. We're not endorsing anything else like that. But it is, yes, I would say appropriate for, let's say, young adults. I would say
Yes.
for the Almodovar. Still nothing crazy.
Yes, but I do think that there's a potential once we have people getting used to, hey, outdoor films on this beautiful terrace is a thing, and this is just going to be part of what we do. That yes, we can offer things that are across many genres and from all over that Hispanic from that Spanish speaking and Portuguese speaking world that informs that collection.
And there's a lot to choose from, just like your wonderful collection. Well, thank you again for taking the time and being a guest here on Inwood Artworks On Air. Is there anything else you'd like to share before we say goodbye?
Anything else?
I'll say you covered a good gamut of what's coming up. Is there anything else you'd like people to know?
I would just say that just as a kind of advisory, what we have planned in the coming years is very much a rotating selection. So what I would say to people who want to engage with the Hispanic Society is you have to kind of work to stay attuned, because we're going on a trimester basis now, bringing different objects through the collection, some contemporary, some from our permanent collection. So really what we have to see and to interact with is going to be changing about every 4 or 5 months. So you have to, follow us on socials and
Or become a member, or get excited about that. How about that, huh?
Become a member. Holler at us, education@hispanicsociety.org.
They're very approachable people.
We really are.
Look, they're how nice they are. They'll answer your email.
We're
I promise.
nothing if not reachable, and we're happy to answer questions. But yes, the new model for the exhibitions means no one will be able to say, I've already been there. I've already seen it. And, I think it'll be exciting to every few months come in and see what's new.
That's exciting. Thanks for whetting their appetites.
Yeah, exactly.
I would say too, just on behalf of the education department, that we are very open to all types of collaboration. So we work with K through 12. We work with teaching artists. We we're open to all types of community collaborations. So education at HispanicSociety.org. Just please reach out. We're always fielding kind of.
And do you offer internships, being academic?
We do host
We do.
internships. Our semi-closed state over the last few years has meant that that's not really as formalized as it is.
It's hard.
So it is a little bit more difficult. Some folks have, come in and they're part of internship programs with other academic programs they're just looking for a placement site. But it is our hope that we will have folks. So definitely reach out if you think you want to join the team and be helpful, and we'll see what'll happen. We have been the host for a few years to curatorial fellows at the doctoral level and creative practice research artists for whom we've been a placement site. So it depends on what cycle we are in with our funding and what grants we are giving out. But again, just stay in touch, and we will let you know what's happening.
Awesome. Thank you both, Natalie
Thank you.
and Ryan.
Thanks
for
for
taking the time to be
Thanks,
here
Aaron,
today.
so much.
You betcha.
Pleasure.
So once again, this is Inwood Artworks On Air, called a Cultural Spotlight edition of our On Air podcast. And again, we meet the musicians, filmmakers, writers, theater makers, and artists of all stripes that make their home here in Northern Manhattan. If you have a moment, please show some love right now by rating and reviewing this podcast on Apple Podcasts. 5 stars. It really does help. Many thanks here to Holy Trinity for hosting us, and to HeightSites.com for uptown promotional support. You can support On Air and all of our programming by making a tax-free donation at inwoodartworks.nyc/donate, or via Venmo at Inwood Artworks. Be sure to follow us on social media to keep up all we do, which includes the Inwood Film Festival, Filmworks Al Fresco, pop-up art galleries, live performances, and so much more. Inwood Artworks On Air is proud to be supported in part by public funds from the New York City Department of Cultural Affairs in partnership with the City Council. And Inwood Arts programming is made possible by the New York State Council on the Arts with the support of the Office of the Governor and the New York State Legislature. From the top of Manhattan and the bottom of our hearts, thank you so much for tuning in. This is Aaron Sims for Inwood Artworks On Air.